the real brains of the operation. For a change.
The real final boss.
That is true.
Foxy boss.
The Foxy boss.
I'm phase 2 of final boss.
Yeah, somebody killed me with their last story. This is taking over now. No, but we haven't done a Foxy and final boss edit in a whole long while.
Having a toddler will do that.
Having a toddler will do that. But he's asleep. And we got a few minutes before Lost Ark comes calling. So yeah, this is Empyrian, the Epic of Raiden, submitted by a gentleman by the name of, I don't know, actually, I'll just say Hector. That's just their first name. And apparently this story is up on Wattpad. So if you like, it's like
Wheel of Time pad.
What?
Watt? W-O-T?
The W-A-T-T, like Power Watt. I think it's essentially just like a way to kind of like, it's like a Facebook for your writing, essentially. So like a social media. But yeah, so all of his stuff's on Wattpad, so if you like what we're reading tonight, go give him a follow. And he's also on Twitch, and I will post it in chat before I forget, because I totally will, because I'm old. Twitch.tv/writing_nice
NYC Tedropist.
Like, you're the doctor. Does that mean something?
Not that I know of.
All right. Well, anyways, whether he opened his eyes for the first time or waking from a long dream. Okay. Let me read. So chapter 1. Whether he opened his eyes for the first time after waking from a long dream or the billionth time after a blink, he could not tell. Whether he opened his eyes for the first time after waking from a long dream or the billionth after a blink?
Maybe like, they mean like, it was either a really long dream or just the blink of an eye. Like, or...
The billionth time after a blink.
I think like the billion after blinking your eyes a billion times, just one more blink. That kind of thing.
Oh. I will say, the one thing... I mean, Fox probably knows what I'm going to say already. The one thing you want your first sentence to do is to accelerate me in and not to slow me down / stop me up. And this first sentence definitely, while it's an interesting concept, it feels a little bit overwritten. It's trying to communicate too much, where usually early on we just really need the bare bone facts of the scene. Like when a reader starts your book, it's like you get dumped into a pool at the deep end and your feet are like woggling around. You're a bad swimmer like me and your feet are like, whoa, and you know,
Come on.
You know, the fox has to pull you out. No, but then you're looking to get that footing, and this is not a first sign that's delivering footing.
Just needs clarifying.
This needs a little...
I think I know what you're saying, but it's a little confusing to get there.
Succinctness. First sentence is key toward, you know, anchoring the reader, driving me into the narrative. But with a lot.
Yeah, I do.
Dragging me out of pools. Light flooded in, comma, exciting his senses. So again, exciting is a bit of a vague word. I'm going to be a little bit more granular at the beginning, and then we're going to kind of zoom out and go a little faster. But things like exciting, that is a very, like exciting, excited means different things to different people. Just like dog, when I say dog, Fox might think of, what do you think
Bernese
of?
Mountain Dog.
And I think of a schnauzer, a little dog with a beard. So again, the more abstract kind of your nouns, your words, like those anchors, the tougher it'll be to make sure that everyone's envisioning the same thing, that every reader, and that's kind of the goal, right? So get that standard deviation of reader experience as narrow as possible. So, exciting in senses, maybe it's like, light flooded in, blinding him, sending him like sprawling backwards, like something that, that maybe is more tactile and a bit more easier to visualize. He squinted. After a minute or so, his eyes finally adjusted. For a moment, he stared into the light above his head, confused. I think there should be a comma there. It emitted from. I shouldn't do line editing, but you know, this is a development edit, I guess. For a moment, he started into the light above his head. Confused, it emitted from an unfamiliar rectangular holding. So this is another very common thing in writing. This is something I struggle with a lot in my writing, which is the fact that if we're in a second or a third, like, you know, we have this temptation to tell everything through the point of view character, though we don't have to, especially because you're in third person. It's much easier to do this. Where, like, you know, for a moment he stared into the light. So by having me direct the the viewpoint character's camera upward, you're forcing me into his perspective to, like, give me scene details, which is not always necessary. You could just say a light, like the light buzzed overhead. It was like a glowing circle of bliss, you know, whatever. And just by describing the light, but using some of the language that character might use, you accomplish both things a lot more efficiently. So something to think about there. And I can take that note, but that would be long. So, like, you know, watch the VOD, you know? Come on, help your fellow streamers out.
Also, I think, like, taking us out of the main character's POV in that moment gives us a better idea of what we're looking at. Like, the unfamiliar rectangular holding, I have no idea what that means. And, like, I think we don't need to be that lost like the character is. Like, we can at least know that there's a light up there, even if he doesn't know what it is. Like a holding.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a fixture?
Yeah, like...
I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah, maybe like a fixture.
That's a good catch. I totally missed that. I was like, I was like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I have no idea what an unfamiliar rectangular holding is. That's why she's the real final boss. I'm just a weak imitation. I'm the first phase.
It's okay. A lot of people.
A lot of people are first phase final bosses.
People can't make it past you.
Yeah, a lot of people can't make it past, you know? I have to restart because it's a roguelike. Anyways, he almost thought he was standing or looking down, hovering sideways or something. What kind of fire is that? He thought. He sat up in his bed and looked around the room. There was something different, something wrong even. Something was dangling on his chest. He reached up, touching the soft tube, following with his fingers. So again, same type of challenge, right? Like, we're forcing all the scene experience through the character's point of view. Like, it's okay sometimes, and sometimes it's necessary, but in here it feels like you could probably get a lot more efficiency. Like, something was dangling from his chest. Like, you know, just describe me, like, his hand, like, you know, like, my hand, like, reached my step. It hit something. There's a tube,
it's a little bit... more the way it reads, the way that like a screenplay would, I think, at this point, because it's like very much what like somebody experiencing it or like seeing it on a screen, how they would describe it, like, oh, something was dangling on his chest and he like rather than putting us like establishing the scene, I guess, which again is like part of the process of writing, is just figuring that out and getting that out, and then being like, okay, how can I like fine tune this and actually, you know, like step back and make it a little clearer, because there is like a difference between screenplay writing and like the way that movies are written and the way that like a novel or a short story or a novella or whatever this, you know, you would consider this is written.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. Like with drama and stuff like that, you have to stay like really, really concrete. You can't go into characters' minds, but readers will expect you to kind of leverage characters' perceptions, feelings, thoughts, expressions, the way they talk. Like, you know, if I'm from the South, you know, the way I think about something might sound, my internal brain voice might be like y'all about something, where someone from New York might be all like, good heavens, I don't know, whatever New York people do. Hello, Element Eds, and hello, Novelist. Welcome, welcome. This is a long time due edit. I know we've been really busy, but we're really excited to see you all, and we're excited to do an edit for once in our lives. Hello, indeed.
Just a short one.
Yeah, this will be a short one. We're gonna give Mama some rest. But I'll keep going a little bit. But I wanted the Foxy lady to help on this one at least, if since she was down. The tube snaked up to his nose and branched to his mouth, and awareness continued to sharpen. Realized it was down his throat, and there were smaller tubes connecting his body. So this feels very Matrixy. Like, this is very evocative, and I have a feeling like there's some sort of time. What kind of fire is that as a reported thought? Like, there's got to be some sort of time travel-y thing, right? Where, I fell asleep in, Stone Age period. This is my guess right now. Fell asleep in Stone Age period, and I woke up in, like, a modern-day hospital, and I'm experiencing this as, like, this very, very, like, traumatic thing, which it probably would be. Beginning to panic, he grabbed the tools and wires and pulled them off. Lastly, as quickly he pulled a tube from his nose and throat, gagging as it slid out like a slug. This is extremely similar to the original Matrix. Even the ordering of action is very similar. Or I guess it's a little bit different, but, like, he pulls out, Neo pulls out this thing from his, like, nose and mouth. That's set up as a moment, and then all the other tubes, like, bust out or whatever.
Which is okay. Fan fiction is...
Yeah, I mean, if this is actually...
Or, I mean, like, not that it... But things that have similar things, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I would just...
Unless that's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah, unless that's not what you're going for, yeah. Like, Just okay. Now, he took a closer look. He was in a light blue room wearing a white gown with teal spots. Next to the bed, a machine beeped a long, high-pitched sound. Okay, so, yeah. Then he put his gloves and said, "There's no time for lubricant. I'm going..." I should have said, and pulled the apple right out of his throat. It was incredible, the nurse explained to her fellow workers. So, the Fox lady works in a hospital. Is this how nurses talk to each other about doctors?
No. I think they'd be like, "Did you see what the frick he just did?"
What's wrong with it?
Like, I'm gonna report him. I'm reporting that as a med error, as a hospital error, because that's how you solve issues in the hospital. When people do dumb things, you don't punish them. You just say, "Hey, okay, we'll make this better." Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah, but so there's kind of two layers here. One is it's a very sharp transition to such a degree where, like, usually. And this depends, right? Like, if you have practiced this a lot and you want to really push the boundaries of experimentation, you can do a lot more funky stuff and get away with it. I don't think you're getting away with it here because I wasn't really anchored in the first scene, and then I'm coming into another scene with very little context, very little anchoring, and it just is growing, like, my ability to, like, picture myself or picture the action is growing fuzzy, which is generally a risk sign.
I think it's, again, something that's common in, edgy movies and more of a screenplay thing, to have this jarring, like, tonal shift where you go in blind to, like, a new scene and suddenly they're, like, joking about something weird and you're like, what? But it does require more in a book to get away with that. It's okay in a movie because you don't have, the words to set anything up, and it is just, a visualization, and hearing people talk. But because it's writing, you do have to kind of give us a little bit more contextualization and hold our hand a little more, I guess, because your eyeballs are better at, like, figuring things out. Yeah. Reading things, you have to... I think that's why writing is such an art, because our brains don't always grok things the same as quickly and in the same robust way that our eyes do. Yeah, like our eyes and our ears, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, come now. It was incredible, but I really can't take... And just explain to her fellow workers... "Oh, come now, it was incredible, but I can't really take all of the, his life was on the line. I just couldn't let him go. So I said to myself, Mitchell, I said, it's now or never." And I looked at Martha with tears in my eyes.
Actually, you didn't.
"Quiet, Martha, I'm telling the story." So then I looked at her and said, "Martha, if I don't come back." "Paging Dr. Miller, Mitchell, there's an emergency room." And so okay, so I'm getting the general sense that, like, this is using a lot of film structure, right? Like, kind of like what Fox was saying, where, like, we're cutting really sharply. Like, guy wakes up in an emergency room, has no idea where he is, that wonders what kind of fire the lights are, which is at least the only indication I have that there is some sort of time travel or time jump happening.
Amnesia, maybe? Who knows?
Or amnesia, yeah.
Or they're from like a alternate world reality. I don't know.
We cut to kind of a jerky doctor, and I'm actually really curious if we're gonna stay with this doctor for any longer, because like this little scene, while funny and kind of silly, might be much less necessary than you might think if Dr. Mitchell isn't an actual character that's going to carry forward, because you're, whether intentionally or not, signaling a lot to the reader that I'm going to have to care about Dr. Mitchell. We get a story about him. We get some flavor text, that tells that he's kind of self-absorbed and kind of a knucklehead, Like, so you're telling me, hey, and you're doing a good job showing them, but you're also giving me all these facts about Dr. Mitchell. So, like, I'm expecting that he's going to matter. But am I right? I generally find in development edits, that type of signal is really easy to change, but it's definitely in early drafts a risk. Any writer will sometimes like false positive signal that this character is important when they're really like a throwaway. In a moment, 4 people dressed in the same clothes ran into the room.
What clothes?
Yeah. Good thinking.
And ran into the room where Dr. Mitchell is, or ran into room 623.
Yeah.
Are we jumping to...
Oh, good thinking. Is this... Which room? Is this, 623? Is this the one where the person was waking up?
Well, no, I think 623 is the room where the person was waking up, but we jump from the guy telling the story somewhere, getting paged, and then in a moment, people running into the room.
Yeah.
So, like, what room? I initially read that as running into the room where Dr. Mitchell is telling his story to Martha. But then it says they stopped at the door and stared at the boy in shock. So then my brain said, oh, is this the other room? Did they already go there? So it jumps from him getting paged. We didn't actually get the knowledge that, okay, he goes to the room to see what's wrong. And then are we changing perspective? Is that what these little dots are?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just give us a little bit of recap of, in a moment, 4 people dressed in the similar looking...
Yeah, and like in white...
Blue,
in white smocks. Are they robes? And then so like that could be another signal of like, who's my point of view here as well.
Yeah, they stopped at the door and stared at him. The boy was, the boy's eyes still stung from, I don't know, just that's a chance for you to give us a little bit more information on what the boy's feeling, what he's thinking, some internal narrative for what's going on in his head, which I think is lacking except for that one line, I would say. And a little bit more context of what they see the room as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or even if we're like in the boy's viewpoint, yeah.
Like room 623, is that the psych ward? Is that just a regular hospital room? Is it the waiting room for the emergency area?
Yeah, totally agree. Those scene anchors really, really make a huge difference in terms of just making even all your dialogue better, because we just know where the dialogue's happening, and where dialogue's happening is just as important to the context. Where like if I say shh in like a library versus like shh at like a sports game, something is wrong with me in one of those things, right? But it's the exact same line of dialogue, you know? So those things are, I'm here listening, just working alongside. Yes, thanks for coming and just hanging out.
Woo-hoo. Also, I feel like when he sees these 4 people come in, how does he differentiate them? I don't know. That can come later, but like, is it 2 men and 2 women? Does he even know what gender is? Does he recognize them as humans like him? Is he...
Yeah, it was honestly surprising to me that he spoke English. Because he does here. Where am I?
This is a chance for world building, right? Like, this is a chance for us to learn what this guy doesn't know or what he does know.
Yeah, like this first paragraph should probably be like double or triple in length or a couple of paragraphs. You know, really take it, you know, it's okay to slow down. The efficiency of description delivery will not affect your pacing, right? Like this is like mind-bendingly fast-paced, and not necessarily because that much plot is happening. There is not too much plot. Like all that's happened so far is like, and somebody got paged to their room, but we've like jumped between like 5 different three viewpoints. Because I don't know if like this is the boy, like whether he opened his eyes.
I think it's the boy.
I think it is, but like, you know, again, don't have that context. So where am I? The boy asked. You want to be the first man?
Is this and again, like, whose point POV is this? I'm guessing it's the boys, but yeah, like that could just be clarified. Anyways, okay, you're at the Florida hospital.
Where?
Well, you were found a year ago in perfect health in the woods near Avalon. We have no real information besides that.
What? How?
Okay, this is a lot for you. You probably don't know what to think right now. You were in a coma for a little over a year. No one ever came to visit you, so we don't know much more about you than that.
We're just doctors. Oh, I guess you're the first man still. That's still the first man. You're good.
We're just doctors. We really can't help you that much. We can give you the clothes we found you in. There's a picture of you in it. Maybe that will help you. Go get his clothes.
A moment later, the doctor came back. So now he knows they're doctors. Oh, yeah, so we are just doctors. Okay, so they do kind of establish themselves as doctors. So yeah, so the dialogue, you know, so one general indicator of a scene that has some challenges in terms of conflict or forward drive is lots of questions. If someone is doing a Q&A and they're asking a lot of questions, you know, statements usually drive plot. And it is okay to have questions at certain points of your story and all over, right? Like you use them a lot. But whenever dialogue is very, very like, where? Like, where am I? Oh, you're here. Where? You were found in this. What? How? Okay, here's why. Like, that is generally a scene that can be, those facts can be delivered in more efficient ways. Like, right, if the kid was fighting, this would be a much more interesting scene. It's like, get your hands off me, that's a statement.
Or you can, you know, if you want to get across the information that he doesn't know where he is, you can have, you know, oh, you were found a year ago in perfect health in the woods near Avalon. We don't have any information. I was with my brother next to a lake.
Yeah.
And okay, like, this is a lot for you. You probably don't know what to think right now. Mm-hmm. And we still get that sort of sense of confusion. They're not making sense, but they're still giving us information, world building, their history, but it's not coming in the form of just what, where, how, why.
Mm-hmm. A lot of ways to take these generic things and by making them specific, like what, where, like that level of disorientation can come through, like what Foxy was saying, right? Where, but my brother was where's Daniel? Where's Daniel? Like, you know, like immediately, or like, you know, my brother was next to me. We were rowing. We
were in a fight.
Like, yeah, like that.
There was a light.
Exactly, and it's like statements, like, so that's just a suggestion, right? Like, obviously, I don't know where you want to go with this, but oh yeah, hello NW country, welcome, good to see you.
Hello.
All right. Well, okay, there's a lot for you. We're just doctors. We can't really help that much, but can't they? They have a psych department.
Oh yeah, we do a lot of helping actually.
Doctors do help.
There's a lot of social workers in the hospital.
Docs and social workers.
But that's okay. You know.
Can help a bit. I got a shout out to my doctors. Hashtag holla at your doctor.
I'm not a doctor. Oh, I'm not a physician.
You are a doctor,
I'm
though.
A pharmacist.
Holla at your doctor.
We move it close to timing. A moment later, doctor came back holding a faded pair of black shoes and a matching robe. Flip through the pages and images in the folder.
So they can help you get out. So again, this might be a social worker.
Who is she?
Is this the
So
doctor?
again, like we don't know how many female, male.
But they were all male when they entered, right?
Doesn't
Four
say. It
people.
didn't
Oh, it
say.
says 4 people.
That's
Oh,
what
I
I
see. I
said,
see.
like- Like here we have the other person behind him, but I don't. Yeah, at least like one of them was a woman with kind eyes and like severe hair. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. And so that's like another really, really good tool. Hope you're having a good night. We are. It's been getting some downtime, a bit chaotic. Our little one has been figuring things out, but
Down pretty easy.
he went to sleep pretty well. But in terms of these descriptors, like kind of like what the Foxy lady was saying, a lot of characters, and even we will do this, which is why it's generally a tool that some writers will leverage, is referencing characters by like an attribute. So like, somebody has dimples, be like, Dimples was saying this. And it's a great way of being non-specific, or
even just like the tall one.
Like the frowning
the
man,
tall
or like
man.
expressions, or like the gray
the
cloaks.
curly-haired woman. That way, if there's 4 people, we're not trying to keep track of who's who. The guy, and that is something we naturally do as people. You are introduced. You go to a party and you see your friend talking to 3 people you've never met before, and you're like, oh,
like the brown-haired
that one?
person.
Yeah, the one with the curly hair. That's how our mind, until you know more about them, that's how. So can use that in writing too.
And one thing, like this may somewhat be moot, because I don't know if we need to get dialogue and get interaction from all 4 of these people. Because really, it's like, you could restructure it to have 3 kind of nurses that are doing some of the background or security if in case they're worried this boy will become violent or something, and then 1 person that's doing the questioning, that's doing the getting stuff, those types of things, and that also might help you simplify and streamline, right? Is to say, hey, do I need to have every character talking? Like,
unless they're all going to be important characters, which doesn't seem like.
I'm not getting that here. Sure, the boy said, we'll give you a moment. The doctor said, opening his door and waiting until everyone left the room, exiting herself. The boy looked down at the clothes and stood out of the register. Stood up from. I know I shouldn't do line edits on these, but I can't help it. From the rigid bed, he stretched. It felt like he'd been swimming for centuries. The 8th Outlander book literally has the word Dr. McFreckles. Yeah, and so that's like kind of, if your character is a more voiced character, if they have like a really, if they have, if they sound distinctive, or if they have a funny way of thinking, like they'll say, oh, like, Dimples, I don't know what else, whatever.
Fart
breath over there,
That's what I refer to him as.
Yeah, it's a great way to build a relationship. To take notes, guys. Great way. Make sure to call your significant other fart breath.
Right? It's the truth.
Yes. Hey, we're still here, right? Who would have thought?
We've been doing this too many years.
Yeah, too many years. Still final boss editing after all these years. He turned to the beeping machine and unplugged it. He took the clothes off and wearing it on the robe. It was comfortable.
He's probably going, I turned the beeping machine
unplugged it. So again, so some of this, like,
how does he know?
Yeah, how does he know what unplugging is? So again, like, his level of knowledge, like, this line, whether this is intentional or not, is what fire is that? This tells me something weird time travel. Like, this is a wizard from the past who accidentally teleported himself into the future. Like Merlin, like, zapped himself forward. Huh?
I hate when that happens.
I hate when that happens. That should be, like, I think that's a fun concept if this is the way it's developed. But, because that'd be fun. Like an ancient wizard, like druid. Like, though that has been used. There are stories that do that. Like that hideous strength does a little bit of that. Like you do, accidentally teleport yourself in the future. Totally valid.
That's the danger of using magic, right?
Okay, so I'll scoot a little bit forward because I want to try to get to some of the context. It was comfortable and somehow familiar. He rubbed his hands over the soft material, picked up his shoes, sat on the bed, took a few steps around the room. Okay, so we're getting a lot of description about clothes, which aren't delivering me much contextual facts. Sat down. So we're doing like, also, this is another thing. We're doing a play-by-play, right? And you don't always need to do that. Like, I don't necessarily need to know that he sat down to run his hand over the material, right? Like, as a reader, like, or you don't have to say he bent over and tied his shoes is another great example, right? You can just say, like, reach down and picked up the shoes. So you probably don't need reach down, for example, because I can infer that if his shoes are on the floor, he just needs to grab them. That's the only fact I need to get. So a lot of the...
Also, you can get rid of he sat on the bed and put them on. He put them on. Normally that involves sitting down, or squatting. But also, that doesn't affect the way the story reads, whether we're visualizing him sitting on the bed to put them on or, squatting down to put them on. So, like, save your words for when you want to be really specific.
Yeah. Yes.
Because otherwise you're just gonna, you start to glaze over. So that's the risk of, like, too little description, and it's kind of like, I don't really know exactly what's happening, and too much, we're kind of like, sat down, put them on, took a breath, stood up, put his arm back, put the other arm forward, put this arm forward, put his shoulders back, and it's like, okay, we get it, he stood up.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's just, it's a balancing act, very difficult balancing act.
Very tricky.
Very easy to spend too much time in scenes where people are like, okay, I want you to move on, and too little time where people are like, I really wish you would spend more time on this.
Yeah, that's what edits are for, right? It's like where someone's like, hey, like, you need more here, you need less here, and that's kind of the that's why we have to, I still get other folks to edit my work, because it's very difficult to make these judgment calls just in a vacuum. It's these are very tricky things to do. So, like, it's not like a bad thing. Okay, he took a few steps. Distinct scent entered his nostrils. He breathed in. He saw sunlight, and as his might,
he could swear he saw the sunlight as his mind maybe. Mind tried to take. Typo.
Try to take him to another moment. So again, there's little tweaks you can make. Like, I know if I'm going somewhere else, I'm going away, right? So, like, all those little context things will... Yeah, these are, like, minor things, but they really add up over a draft.
A little bit of a run-on sentence.
Yeah, memory almost formed. He could swear he saw the sunlight. And then you would do period. Then you do...
His mind.
Yeah, his mind.
Tried to take away from the moment, but almost as quickly as it had come. Yeah.
This one slipped away.
I would put a period there. He was left breathing in the not so subtle smell of chemicals in their place. I mean, that's how you can do whatever you want. Try and break up the sentences a little bit. It's just a little cleaner.
He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a piece of paper and taking hold. So again, yeah, he reached into his pocket, and then this could just be and pulled out, yeah. Or you could just be he pulled out the picture the doctor spoke of.
The picture out of his pocket, or something
pulled,
like that. Yeah, if you want to see.
The picture the doctor spoke of. On the back, there was a name. A name.
On the back was a name, right?
Yeah, a name was, was like, written in pencil,
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You can, yeah. On the front case, there was either some distinctly addition or this guy knows who he is. He thought to himself. Because, again, it's quoted, I know that he's thinking this to himself.
Each of his hands were a sword, identical in both size and color. What size and what color?
Or a sword, yeah. What size and color? Yeah. Oh, well. Welcome back, Element Eds. Taking a few breaks from writing and trying to get some cosplay work done. Nice. Cool. Well, just remember, don't accidentally teleport yourself 1,000 years into the future. It's a bad plan.
It's the worst.
It causes so many problems. It's just avoid it.
Every time I say this is the last time.
I know. That's what she says. And I'm like, all right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Poof, gone. Then guess who has to take care of the baby?
For once.
For once in his life. The boy stared curiously at the picture, thinking of possibilities. Is this really me? Why can't I remember anything? He studied the swords in his hands. They were black, but not just the color. It was like looking into the void of space from within. The darkness he could almost feel. He reached a finger out to place it on a sword. The door opened and a man walked in. Raiden, could you come with me? He asked, gesturing to be followed. So again, whenever your dialogue is pretty indicative of body motion, boom.
Saving words.
Easy. Save them. And you probably want to do like this. Yeah, where like that's a new paragraph and these get combined into one. If I accept the change, it'll look better. There. Raiden, the boy said to himself, feeling the name form on his lips. Look at the picture again. So it's interesting. So like he's very like meditative and kind of lost here, where much earlier, I guess he was just like so disoriented. Maybe this is like a natural progression, but it does feel like the way Raiden is reacting to the scene feels like it's different, right? Like he's like looking at the swords, almost touching the swords, and then now he's like meditating on his name. So like, you mean my mom looked like me except with the laugh lines when you don't know what they look like isn't a good description. That could be, yeah, that could be problematic. There are ways to pull it off, though. That's the thing. Like, a lot of these, you know, it's like this old adage that, who's the founder of Picasso? The founder of Cubism. You know, but Picasso was a fantastic traditional painter. He could make things look so realistic, so concrete. And then he did abstraction and cubism and kind of broke images down to their component parts. And one of the reasons those were successful is because he had this like huge backlog of technique and tools that he could use and that he did use. And it sounds like one of the reasons why if I go try to paint squares and like tell someone it's cubist, they'll be like, "That's nice, Jeff. Go back home. Get off. You know, put some clothes on. Go home." But like for Picasso, because you know he'll have enough tools in his tool belt to pull off a more complicated risk as a artist. And so that's one of the things here is like a line like that probably.
Is that a line from Twilight?
Yeah, is that a line from Twilight? Yeah. But again, like a line like that is generally, on average, going to be unsuccessful. It's not going to communicate well.
I think what it's lacking is specificity for the mom.
Yeah.
Comparing, like describing someone in comparison to the main character is not going to be successful. Like you want to find what's unique about each character and focus in on that. And laugh lines, unless you're trying to convey that
you're
the mother
sad.
is full of joy and laughter, and that's something that the main character is lacking. Which
that's why she's dating vampires.
It is
or
true.
Wolves, or I don't know.
Sure. I'm sure that probably was what. Bella was a total downer.
Did you read Twilight?
Yeah.
I tried. It was
terrible.
on a toilet. And I tried to read it, and I
loud.
just got bored, and I was like, eh.
It's terrible.
I authentically wanted to care, but I just couldn't. Anyways, I'm Officer Shirley, but you feel free to call me Sam. So that's like kind of a weird. Shirley to
Maybe
Sam is a
first
weird
name
jump.
Is Sam. Like Sam Shirley, maybe?
Oh, okay. The
I don't
picture you have there, you said, we don't know what to think of it. Why you're found in a forest, you know. It's a lot to process with no. So again, these facts are. It feels like they're communicating or reiterating the emotion potentially the writer wants me to be understanding about this character. Hey, you must be really confused. So trust your readers. Most readers are pretty developed, right? So I won't necessarily need as many indicators about hey, given the facts of the situation, this character is feeling confused. Like, given the facts of the situation, it is pretty much a very high likelihood I'm going to come to that conclusion. So there's not necessarily need to reiterate it. Well, yeah, but bot that to work, you need the tools to do that. But Miss Mayor is too big of a hack to know that. Worst thing to happen to my state since May 18th, 1980, when Mount St. Helens erupted. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So this is Washington, right?
Bad.
It's up north.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Washington's
yeah,
not St.
yeah.
Helens. Well, that's cool. You know what? I always feel really terrible when people are on the East Coast and I know it's like 4 a.m. for them or something when I'm streaming and they're like, I'm so tired. I'm like, please go to sleep. It's fine. Like, calm down.
Your name is indeed Raiden Cimmeriani. You have your own estate. Strange as it sounds, you're a very rich boy. And I'll be honest,
I thought they said they didn't know anybody of his next of kin or anything.
They said nobody came to visit him.
But they don't know anything. You probably don't know. We were in coma. No one ever came to visit you. We know much more. We don't know much more about you than that.
That was what the doctor said. The police.
Oh, but okay.
Know
I guess the police know more. Okay.
They could indicate. I think that could be clarified. Like,
yeah.
I've heard that the police found some stuff about you, but we don't know what.
Yeah. Okay.
Easy
Raiden Cimmeriani.
You have your own estate.
Strange. It sounds to you very rich. I'm very confused by that fact. Probably most of all, you have a ton of money, never been on Forbes, no parents to speak of, and you were here in front of me. So again, I don't need him to tell me that this is confusing. So like a cop, right, would be like potentially suspicious about the source of this like comatose kid who suddenly has a lot of money. Like, is he being used as like a money laundering, like, you know, some sort of fence for like funds? Like, I don't know, like. I had to take courses on money laundering because I worked in payments for a while. But like, yeah, like, I feel like the cop wouldn't say he's confused or, you know, unsure. He'd potentially
just be watching him.
Try to like watch and ask questions. Yeah, and that would be like the context cues. Yeah. Yep, Washington, yeah. Well, at least you're still doing some cosplay stuff, which is awesome. I haven't done cosplay in a long time. I'm really sad. I miss it. I haven't, because freaking COVID, there's no cons. Anyways.
There are now, but we have a toddler.
There are nows, but we... Huh?
I said there are now, but we have a toddler now.
Yeah, we need to figure that out. No, you want to get to Comic-Con.
Cosplay the toddler.
Cosplay the toddler. He's an Ewok, you know. Princess Leia, solved. I'll be Han.
He would be Luke Skywalker.
No.
No? Chewbacca?
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't want to tick off a Wookiee.
Let the Wookiee win.
Let the Wookiee win. I'll be hard pressed to deny your existence anyways. So I know I've been told to escort you to return to your life. Okay, so then he starts heading home. I will let you get some R&R. Do you want to do some, we can do like a quick summary of notes here.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the stuff we already kind of talked about. I won't write out a summary because I think a lot of them are on the side here. But what do you think is some of the themes you would encourage this writer to develop, work on, think about in revisions?
I think focus in on giving us a little more detail and scene setting early on. Trying to remember. Try to weed out unnecessary scenes, descriptions, people. I don't think Dr. Mitchell is going to be coming back.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Dr. Mitchell's coming back.
So, as much as that was kind of a fun little scene, it's not really doing anything for the story. And then, as much as I liked having more, of what this Raiden character was thinking and feeling and doing, like we said, if we cut it down to what we need to get the gist. Because that way we'll, at this point, if we have more context early on, a little bit more knowledge of what's going on, smoother transitions between scenes, and then when we get to that slower moment where he's by himself in the room,
it'll be earned.
It'll be earned, and we'll want it to keep moving forward. because we'll be interested to find out more. So we won't care as much about the details of him sitting,
putting on
touching
shoes
his
or
robe, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting. I like the cool swords. Like I want to know, is this guy like a samurai? I want to know why he doesn't know what a light bulb is, but he knows how to unplug a machine. Yeah, that's another thing. Just kind of clarify and start doing your world building early on. Just be aware of what your character would know, wouldn't know, and use that information just in small dollops. You don't want to like give us a history of your world in the first 2 pages, but you can drop in little hints just to give us a sense of what type of story this person's going to be a part of. If that makes sense. The swords is a good one. It's okay. I know this is going to be about some badass guy with swords, maybe with amnesia. So that's great. But like, even more of that. Is he from the past? Is he from? Anyways, that was long, but yeah.
No, I totally agree. So to avoid restating all those, so definitely she's right on the money. So it's very. I don't have much to say now. But in terms of, there's a few things just to think about. Is one, like, amnesia plots are a very common trope, and they generally aren't as necessary as writers think they are. Because the writer will sometimes, it's funny, because I was doing a bunch of indie game playthroughs, and like 3 of them had characters with amnesia. And it was like, stop it! But these are like the games, right? But to
Unless
some
it's the Born Identity.
Yeah, but the Born Identity, so again, but that had like very specific reasons to do it, very concrete ways to exploit the hidden past, and it had it was essentially like a horror story in a lot of ways, because he doesn't know his own ghost. He did something in the past. He's discovering this horrific person that he was and that the government made him into, and everyone is trying to. Yeah. So like that's the, so again, like they're putting their own twist on amnesia by essentially Born Identity is a horror story. This is a person who has a lethal skill set. He does not know what happened, and there is a ghost in his past, which is part of horror structure, some sort of sin of the past that is revisited on the hero, right? Or revisited on their children or children's children, right? Like that's like a very, 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 very common thread in horror. The thing with a lot of the games, at least that I played, that used amnesia as a tool, was they were generally using it to give opportunities for folks to explain things to the main character, and by them, the reader or person who's experiencing these things. Exactly. So, there's probably I would say like a 60 to 70% chance you might be able to pull this off with even more success by just letting this character remember and like be kind of freaked out and still like not know where they are, right? Like, I don't have to have amnesia to...
And you don't have to give us all of the information about his past right away. You can still give us, where am I? Like, looking at the picture, seeing himself with the swords, and just not giving us that information from him, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, but in that other, like, 40 to 30% chance that you say, hey, amnesia is the direction you want to go, then the play you'd be looking for is really to say, what's the thematic point, right? Like, it can't just be in service to, like, communication. Like, yes, like, I know it's like it is a really helpful tool for, like, generating reader context, generating reader information. But even in, like, the Born Identity, right? Like, he wakes up on this boat, and he just, like, goes to, like, find out who he is, and then all of a sudden he's like, I have guns and, like, 20 passports, right? And, like, what? Like, and so, like, those little, like, reveals need to be pretty baked in and pretty thoughtful in terms of plot points. Because the second he unlocks his bank account, guess what happens? There's conflict. There's antagonists coming to find him because they say, hey, we thought this agent was dead. He's back. He's still alive. He just registered on the map. We need to take him out. So, like, that's extremely conflict driven around this thing. He doesn't realize he's kind of causing his own downfall because he's just some random guy, and all of a sudden he's on the radar again as this like very dangerous operative. I'm trying to think any other big notes. Yeah, I think the big stuff. One thing I would say, and this is a recommendation. He doesn't have memories, but he has a specific set of skills.
Sure,
yes. The one thing I would check out is highlighter. Is it this one? Yes. So I wrote a blog post about using highlighters in some of your favorite books to see how they're pacing language. Because kind of, and Danielle, I think, explained it very well, so I'm not going to reiterate it. But in terms of, yeah, we're like really going into a lot of detail on certain things we don't need detail on, and then we're really like absent of detail and context on things we do. Going through and saying, okay, what types of speech are getting used in like a book, and you know, like if you don't want to mess up your nice copy of a book, just get a an extra one on Amazon, and then just go through and say, this is dialogue red, this is action, this is character making movements, that's yellow. This,
when there's a good scene, go back and try and figure out why.
At the language level.
Yeah. Why is this a good scene? Not just, oh, it was cool, but like, oh, we spent a lot of time in this person's perspective, but this other thing was happening that we didn't know about it, and there was a big reveal of it at the end, or something like that. These things you don't necessarily notice while you're reading, but if you pay attention, you can see some techniques that writers use. Like, and
you can like add those tools to your tool belt,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
You can make a note, like,
oh, I should try this out.
That doesn't mean you'll be able to use it perfectly right away. Like, it doesn't mean you're like, got it.
It takes practice. Yeah, it's like everything. Takes practice.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right on. Well, overall, I think this is a super fun concept.
Yeah,
I love...
very fast-paced. It's kind of like Stranger Things vibes.
Yeah, it does have Stranger Things vibes.
Yeah.
I like the medieval kind of Arthurian vibes as well, and like these black swords.
An estate, so I'm like, is he... Yeah, I don't know if he's from the past.
I don't know if he's like landed, like maybe like, I was thinking like which would be slick. I think, but like if it's like a wizard from the past, like bought an estate and got all these investments and then like teleported himself into the future and it's like, I'm rich. Like, it's like a time machine thing that like you always see in those movies where like, bet on the Mets, like to win the World Series or whatever it is.
That's very smart.
So yeah, he's like, I'm buying property in freaking San Francisco in the 70s when like nobody wants it. Now it's like gajillion dollars. Anyways, I can let you get some R&R.
Yeah,
I love People Legends. Yeah, this was super fun.
Good job.
Good job.
Nice hanging out. Nice doing one of these.
Yeah, I know. It's been a minute.
I am the true final boss. So.
She is the true final boss. So you guys got to my second phase on this one.
I just bring different perspectives.
Yeah, and then my kid's like the last phase where he just hammers on the keyboard and you have to decipher, but he's right. Whatever his notes are, they're absolutely correct. Yeah. You just have to somehow figure out what he was trying to communicate. Yeah. It's like, God, these are brilliant if I could just interpret them. All right, have a good night, sweetie. I'll do this later. All right. So that is that. Great job to the writer here. Great job indeed. I'm going to transition to Majin Buu's screenplay because I've read some stuff from Majin Buu before. I'll probably keep this relatively lean, so I probably will not have like a super long review of this, but it should be fun nonetheless. PDF and Notepad. Boom. Now let's adjust these so, it doesn't hurt people's eyes. Doesn't hurt your eyes. All right, Cinderella. So this is kind of like a take on Cinderella and some of these things. I'm very interested. Majin Buu's retellings of certain like mythologies and things are always very creative and pretty fun. So I'm very curious to see what this TV pilot has in store for us. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change the mic to my little speaker so you will have a little bit more clean sound. All right, is that better?
Is there not as much interference? I'm not sure if there was before, but yeah, this is Modern Blue Screenplay. We're gonna get started in just a delightful minute. I'm gonna get some water. I'm gonna get my act together. I'm gonna get my life together. I need to. Goodness gracious, I'll tell you that. And then I think we're gonna get this party started. I'm pretty excited. All right. Well, I hope these are helpful to the writer, and I can't wait to yeah, hear what they think about the notes. All right, Majin Buu, bring it on, Cinderella, Cinderella. So we're gonna do it's a pilot written by. Again, this is one of my things in screenwriting is I always like simple title pages. Keep it simple. That's the way to go. There's a lot of pain sometimes. I don't know why this is like weirdly bolded. I picture as three-story home is surrounded by a plush, well-maintained garden with white marble walls and an iron gate. So again, this sentence feels weird with white marble walls and so like this kind of grammar feels off. Um, I think it's I think it's correct, but it just reads very strangely. So I always am like really harsh on the intro sentence because there is nothing more important in your story than the first sentence. Nothing. Because if someone doesn't get past that, they will never see anything else. And same with screenplays, right? If someone is like your first sentence, your first page, that first impression is pivotal. It's pivotal. Um, so yeah, anything you can do to optimize that is generally time well spent. So I will say like this, intro like reads a bit oddly. Also, we are starting on a yeah, so we'll see. So a golden sun shines bright in the blue sky, red cardinals, and then we're in black and white. With the passage of many years, the vibrant colors of the world fade to cold black and white, and the chateau falls to ruin. Its white walls crack, its roof wears down, its garden overgrows with reeds. Okay, so this is like a speed passage of time. Heavy snow falls, creak, the gate opens, pushed in by a man in the shadows. He holds up a dagger and stumbles forward in the house, blood drips. Charlotte, a homely brunette, stumbles forward towards the house, blood drips in the snow. So again, this is very, very common for screenwriting, so I think this is fine, right? Like where very punchy sentences, um, very, very image based, which I think is really important, right? Because that's generally what the filmmaker is going to use to kind of develop a lot of these things. They're going to say, okay, what's the inspiration for this scene? How do I want to evolve from kind of these base pieces? All right, blood drips in the snow. Interior, master bedroom, chateau, Henriette, night, black and white. Charlotte, a homely brunette. Homely is unattractive. With a crooked nose, yeah, okay. I always get those mixed up, but I think that is correct. Homely brunette with a crooked nose heavily admires herself in a fancy, full-body mirror. Her hair is perfect, her jewelry is sparkling, her dress is splendid. She runs her hands along its fabric, turns to see her profile. Charlotte, I can hardly believe it. Evelyn, neither can I. Did we intro other? So again, so this is maybe a me thing. It's not necessary, but I think this is page one still, huh? Yeah. But I generally, before a character speaks, you generally want to introduce them. It's generally best practice to intro them in action first. This could just be me. Um, I'm also like, I haven't done screenwriting in a long time, so I'm a little old, so I'm a little outdated. Uh, but because the screenplays do run the balance of being a entertainment document, right? Where like you want whoever's reading it to be entertained. You want them to be engaged because they are going to hopefully buy and produce and make this movie. But you also need to respect the fact that it is a technical document. There is a level of like hey, this just has to execute and communicate a certain amount of technical information, you know. Like, so for example, it's like black and white bolding thing I don't think is necessary. I think you can just have that in like normal tone. Um, or in line. I don't, or it'd probably be in like parentheses would be my guess. Yeah, because like usually whenever you have like a modifier on a scene, it's in parentheses, and like the slug line is just for like location and time of day. So like it would be, it would be like I think it would be, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. And actually, I'm kind of curious, Majin, what your thoughts are here, because you probably know more about conventions, bedroom, than I do right now. Night, and then this would be like black and white, like this. So I think, so I wrote it over there, and like the little, yeah, I'll put a little arrow. Is this the right way? Haven't done this in a while, but I'm pretty sure that is. Anyways, I can hardly believe it. Neither can. So that's the thing. Like on your first page, like you want to be, at least when I was reading screenplays and kind of more in that industry, you wanted that first page to say, I am a professional. I know that this is an entertainment document and a technical document. I know the right ways of communicating everything, and here it is, right? So generally, like something like this would be a little bit of a flag for me. It may be nowadays like this is more common. I just don't know. Again, Fade to so like this, I would probably think should almost be a montage or something. So there should be like bullets here to show the passage of time. So that feels a little funky, but it's not terrible. So that's fine. Uh, and then having the character speak before they are introduced is okay. You can do it, but again, a lot of kind of like ooh things to throw at a reader on your first draft or on your first page, right? And so comes to your choice as a writer. Is ordering it this way, is revealing Evelyn in the scene as she speaks more important than trusting conventions? I don't know, right? And this is kind of where your writer's judgment comes in, where you say, hey, what are the trade-offs I want to make to drive drama? Evelyn, a fiery woman whose beauty is overshadowed by the repellent nature of her fierce demeanor and presence. Her dress is fancier, her jewelry larger, her hair taller. It's perfect. It's idios. What? Mother? Cinderella has done a terrible job at anticipating how much weight you'd put on from nervous eating. Oh, jeez. That is a toxic mom. So, again, that is a very telling line, right? So, like, when a mom starts ripping on their daughter for, for eating or their weight, like, we kind of know that this is going to be generally quite a toxic individual, or they probably won't have a very healthy perspective towards the people in their lives. So I think this is a great, oopsie, this is a really solid opening for the character. I don't know whether this is going to be a solid opening for the story. Like maybe the story will need something else or something different, but this is a solid character opening for Evelyn. Charlotte seems a little bit more ambiguous, right? Like her intro line is I can hardly believe it. That's not a very specific way. So remember same as the first sentence, first line a character speaks, one of the most important lines for that character because it is setting a lot. So again, whether you want this little like turn, because I know this is kind of a fun moment to say like, oh, set up that they both can't believe, but in different directions. Um, and that payoff is fine and fun. Um, but depends on your priorities, right? Like if it was me, I would probably prioritize finding something really distinctive that is very Charlotte. Like who is Charlotte? What is her way of being excited about that dress? Maybe she's like Cinderella. I can't believe her. And then she's like, neither can I, and she's like, shit's perfect for a change. I don't know, but just food for thought. Like a lot of this is going to be pretty nitpicky because Majin Buu screenplays are generally pretty cleanly written. Like this is not his first rodeo, and it does show. It does show. Um, the circle Charlotte like a shark preening over her dress. She should have known better. Now she has to correct it. Take it off. So again, like now she has to correct it. This is a little overly explanation. You can just have take it off, and we will assume that something is going to happen. Get rid of it. Um, yeah, like two. Take bit too explicit, not too bad. Mother, there's no time. Bridget's dress is 10 times worse than this one, maybe 28. Can't I just wear it? Again, it's like always trim extra words in dialogue. Whenever your dialogue lines, and you know this, Smodgen, so I'm more explaining this for folks. Whenever a line is over two bars, whenever a spoken dialogue is over 2 bars, same with action. Whenever action's over 2 bars, the thing that you should always be asking is, how do I cut it down? And whenever it's over 4, you should almost say, is this a critical moment in my story where I have to have a long piece of dialogue? Otherwise, I must cut it down. Dialogue is a tricky beast, but it's definitely a screenplay convention that is worth trusting. So, in this respect, I would say this should be trimmed. This should absolutely be trimmed. All right, Mother, there's no time. Bridget's dress is 10 times worse, maybe 20. Like, can't I just wear it? Question mark. Yeah, I would just say take out maybe 20. Can't I just wear this? So those types of things, like, just this is very, like, those refinement pieces though make a huge difference in the final screenplay's pacing. Like, the screenplays are really all about, or very heavily about plot structure and pacing, and so this will directly impact some of that. So, trimming dialogue pass might help a ton with, just extra leaning out and focusing on character voice. Okay. Bridget is 10 times prettier, blah, 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 blah. Bridget is 10 times prettier, maybe 20. She doesn't need a fancy dress to impress her suitor. You do. Take it off. Okay, so the Evelyn's characterization is really good. I definitely know this lady is not a friendly gal. Cinderella huffs and puffs and protests as she stripped. Or Charlotte huffs and puffs. Evelyn snatches it from her. Stop pouting. You're always pouting. No wonder you're not married. Again, um, this is extra. I already know she's not married because she is trying to impress a suitor up here. Um, this stop pouting, you're always pouting is enough. And so again, I do believe a dialogue pass will really, because this is something that happens in my writing all the time. At the end of every paragraph, especially in novels, end of every paragraph is generally almost always an extra sentence, just explaining that little bit extra that we probably don't need to explain, but we explain it anyways. This is that. So just those little trims, and it would be, I think, you will elevate it quite a bit, especially for this intro. But it's just Cinderella, a graceful, lovely princess we know so well. But for her there was no ball, no prince, and through 50 she remains a servant girl. And if the years have been as kind as she is, her dress is plain and her hair is a mess, but her beauty is undeniable. So again, I don't know. This tough. This tough because yes, you're giving me this context as your script reader, but I don't know that she hasn't met her prince yet. From my perspective, this feels like a pretty clean retelling of Cinderella with some modern tropes. But because like, how are you going to communicate the missed opportunity in scene, right? Because part of what you're setting up in this thing is that, hey, she maybe had a chance to go to a ball, but it never happened. But how are you going to communicate that to me? Maybe just by her age? But again, like 32 is not that old, all right? Like, let's slow down calling 32 people old, you know. But yeah, 32 is not that old. So from my perspective, again, this is when it's one of those risks, right? It's like different readers are going to get different things if you're not as specific and you're not using concrete things to communicate. Is that I'm gathering that like Cinderella's ball can still happen. She's 32, like that's not that old. Whereas, the conclusion that you might want me to make is that, oh man, she's missed her shot. She's just stuck here and she's still stuck here. I'm not getting that. And so, yeah, food for thought there. Page 2, the like, I don't know how to spell Cinderella. There we go. The Cinderella, as missed her shot idea doesn't strike for me, and this feels like her shot could still plausibly be around the corner. All right. Yet the years have been kind. Okay, yada yada. Stepmother, Cinderella. Charlotte covers herself, dressed down to her undergarments. How dare you into my chambers without knocking? I find it hard to believe even you can be so rude. Cinderella, I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait. Everything can wait for good manners. Not everything. And the man in the shadows staggers into his room, his cloak stained with blood, hands holding his own They've killed me. What are you talking about, brigands, assassins? Don't know. Again, I wish he did. Or he couldn't say. Because brigands and assassins, that's the most general choice. The most general. But why isn't it some intrigue? And maybe he's saying this as an excuse, so I could be proven wrong. But why isn't this some intrigue? I think that could be so much more interesting. So yeah, food for thought there. I would definitely say like he just shakes his head or something. Like give me like a mystery here. By answering that question, we lose an opportunity, I believe, for a lot more leaning forward and curiosity and intrigue, right? Feels like naming it as, a general assassin or brigand is a lost opportunity to add a mystery box. Yeah, that one rankled me a little bit. Not in like a bad way, but like it's more just like, oh man, like I thought it was gonna be like my brother. Like, oh, why does his brother want to kill? Like that would be interesting. Right? Like it's like what is something that I wouldn't expect? My wife, my brother, him. You know, who's him? You know, he's still hunting me. Like those are like drama. Where brigands assassins, at least given the tropes that I'm aware of, do not in the tropes I'm approaching this novel with, the presuppositions I'm coming into this screenplay with, that's not as intriguing of a choice. Rushes to his aid. Evelyn kneels at his side. And Hubert, is he safe? Are his sons? Wait, what? But he waves her off, and too weak to stand, falls his neck. Evelyn kneels at his side. Hubert, so they know this person? So why is he called the man if they know this person? That's kind of weird. Is he safe? We barely fought him off. My men, answer me, are they safe? They arrive in the hour. So I don't need yes. Good. She gets her feet, fixes her dress just as Bridget, prettier and crueler sister, saunters in. Dear Lord Mother, why is that man bleeding all over your vintage rug? You've done a very fine service. Rest assured your family will be paid. Evelyn thrusts Charlotte's dress into Cinderella's arms. Wait, they just don't care? So again, I do like the callousness of the mom, but if nobody cares, right? So they do care about one thing. So once nobody cares, there's no conflict. But they do care about one thing, which is Hubert and his son safe? But that question gets immediately answered, and then he just gets chucked out, and then all the stakes of the scene just go whoop. They just get lost. Um, so like keep me caring, and even if it's Cinderella and we need like Cinderella to start having conflict of, do I need to fix the dress or like save this guy's life? Um, and I hope that that happens down here. Now a man is dying. Okay. So she's doing it. We have our duties. 10 minutes. So again, very quickly resolved. This should be like an argument, or she should say no, and then Cinderella should disobey. Disobedience is conflict. Disobedience, trickery, hiding, like lying. Like that's what we want to see, right? That's because, and then opens up another question of, will she get found out? Will the grandmother know? Like, will Evelyn realize that Cinderella actually didn't fix the dress very fast? Maybe the dress comes in late because Cinderella was trying to keep this guy alive. Those types of things are, yeah. This scene loses its stakes way too fast. A question that characters care about appears twice, but is answered immediately, you know, within 2 lines twice. Draw these gaps of want and fulfillment out and expand. I disobeyed. Novelist, the cop told me to have a nice day. I disobeyed. There you go. Was he going to find out? What is he going to do when he finds out? That's conflict. That's conflict. Does he care? But then again, that's the thing. Does the cop care? If nobody cares, and this guy doesn't even protest, right? He's just like, okay, I guess I'm dying. Sweet. So this guy doesn't even protest. So the characters have to care, and there has to be some sort of friction in the situation, right? So we don't have either here, right? Nobody cares about the guy dying except Cinderella, and she's like, she doesn't care enough to ask. She's begging, like, please let me stay with him. She's not care. She doesn't care enough to take a stand, right? So that means she doesn't care that much. She's like asking. She's willing to negotiate. It means she doesn't care that much. Because if I'm like, F you, I'm doing this, and you can say whatever the heck you want, then she has to care, and so I believe that Cinderella cares because of the actions and the things she's doing about it. Not really doing much about it. Likewise, with the mom, like even the guy doesn't care. Like, okay, what are you talking about? Like the dialogue is great, but again, it's undermining the plot. It's undermining your scene dynamics, which are more important. Better to have worse dialogue, clunkier dialogue even, and scenes that ask questions and draw me forward, because people will want to open that mystery box more than they'll want to listen to really scintillating dialogue every time. Right, we have our duties. Please let me stay with him. There's a harsh grants. First to Charlotte. 10 minutes. Thank you, that's kind of you. Just get him off my brook. Cinderella moves. Don't get any blood on the dress. Yes, stepmother. Cinderella, please, tonight you'll address me as Evelyn. You can worry about the rest. So they're like talking while this guy is dying. So again, even Cinderella is implying that she doesn't care about this guy because he's like bleeding, like like I mean, like he's only said one line and it was very weak, right? They barely fought them off. My man, like all his lines are sorry, he said 3 lines, but all his lines are like very weak. He kind of like fades out. He's like, I don't know what he's doing. Is he lying on the floor now? His cloak is Cinderella still holding him? I don't know, right? Like so those scene dynamics. I need to kind of know where this guy is positioned to know how much I should be worried and how much I should care. Need more like scene dynamics on the wounded guy to know where he is and why I should care, and how urgent his plight is, right? Because you've implied that his plight is urgent. You're saying this guy is about to die. He's in a lot of urgency, and the fact that Cinderella is having this nice chat with Evelyn, yes, it means that she is more scared about what Evelyn thinks and what she might do than about this guy's very urgent wound. So that means she doesn't care about him. even though she is like, taking a small risk, but she didn't take a big risk, right? She's not really saving a cat here. She's kind of like waving at a car not to hit the cat, right? Like, oh no, there's a cat. Like, don't So like, if you want to give Cinderella a save the cat moment, it's really got to involve some sacrifice for her, and she's not really ponying up. And so again, this rings a little bit flat. I think a lot of the ideas in this scene are really good, but the actual scene execution, the dynamics are having problems bringing in the drama and making me like really, really lean forward and care. As Evelyn leaves, Cinderella sets down the dress, then returns to the man's side and checks his mood. It's bad. Grim look. Again, I know for screenplays is okay, but I do always, it's okay to be more specific. I know that this is like an effect, short sentences. It's good to vary sentence length, but you know, whatever. Anyway, grim look they share makes it certain his fate is sealed. Easy now. Let's get you someplace nice. Don't worry, it's not far. But does not falter. She helps the man climb. Whiting said, "How do I know that she's not faltering? Maybe she's like determined. Yeah, but just show me like it's much easier to communicate action than not action. So like Serinda struggles, her eyes determined on the next step, bearing the weight of a hulking soldier. You know, that is much more clear than Cinderella struggles but does not falter. Right? Give me those. She helps the man climb the winding steps of the attic one by one. Okay, give me those details. Right? Because a not detail does not communicate quite as much. Yeah, I won't put that in the notes. You guys watch the VODs, right? For these, especially if it's your story. I hope you watch the VODs. Because I don't put everything in the notes, because I'm lazy. I'm doing these for free, These are the free Twitch edits, This is just throwing y'all a bone here. I'm just being silly. No, this is a lot of fun for me, so I have a blast doing them, so it's absolutely worth it. And it's good exercise for my own writing. Cinderella's room is in a different world compared to the gaudy fashion, expensive taste of the rest of the house. Here it is cozy, quaint, with dresses, sewing materials, and potted plants almost every corner. Wide circular windows. So great job. Great job using scene description to tell me about Cinderella. I'm actually learning more about Cinderella here by looking into her personal space. This is such a good job that it should be called out. I'm learning more about her here than this, right? This is a little bit too vague. I don't really know. One thing I would encourage you to do is compare her dress. I think you do have, like, she remains a servant girl, but, like, her dress is plain, her hair a mess, but her beauty is undeniable. Yes, valid. This is more communicative than this. Though I know you're trying to, you can get away with that in character intros, I know, but I'm a stickler, man. I'm a freaking stickler. You're gonna have to deal with it. That's why you send me edits, right? So someone is a stickler. Someone's got to be the final boss. This is not even my final form. My final form's playing Lost Ark inside. You don't want to f with that. Or sleeping. I don't know. Cinderella's yeah. So, but again, fantastic way of using personal space, using clothes choices, using all these things that people fill their life with. Like, if you look at my garage behind me, you probably will know quite a bit about me, right? Like, if you just look at my room, you will know a lot about me. If you look through my stuff, you will know a lot about me. Very, very powerful way of communicating character. A great, great, great job showing me who she is by, her room's, setup. And then also contrasting with the rest of the house. Very, very good job. All right. Shivering, Cinderella is a warm blanket over him and he struggles against it. Blood seeps from his room, staining it. There. Won't be long now. The paint won't last forever. It won't. Is she expecting him to die? Is she... Is she like literally? She's not even gonna try to save him. She's just like, I'm just not gonna let you die alone. Oh man, if I was that guy, I would be like, please get some medicine, dude. There. It won't be long now. Pain won't last forever. Your hands reaches over her, takes it and squeezes. Don't be speak. It's all right. I'm here with you. You're not alone. There's a flutter in the window. Smiles. The heavy groaning turns his head and his game. Yeah, I didn't realize. I didn't realize his death was an assumed outcome. I need more setup for this to feel believable. Yeah, it doesn't feel believable that she's not trying. Like, why doesn't she get medical attention? Why doesn't anyone get medical attention? Yeah, I mean, maybe that's my like bias of having a pharmacist for a wife, but Bluebird sits in the window. Pile of clothes, more handlings when you notice the man. A companion of Teddy Bear like perks up from his nest on a pile of clothes. So watches him sadly. Someday I'll wish upon a star. Okay, so he's seeing Family of Mice. So she's like very. So is this live action or cartoon? I'm not sure. So again, this is like pretty gory for a cartoon, but then pretty fantastical for live action. So this definitely is tone is a little funky. The tone feels funky, and I don't see exactly how it will blend cohesively on screen. This feels like a live action with, vibes of, animation, but also, it's trying to be gritty. So, it feels, uh, so it's difficult to visualize. In a way that, in a satisfying. Yeah, so it doesn't like come together, right? I see, I think, what you're kind of leaning towards, which is having, this kind of like live action, but there's still these like fantasy elements and all this stuff. Um, but yeah, it doesn't come together. I will say, I think to my guess is that you're saying, hey, you want to do this kind of cool thing where you blend live action with some of like the tropes from animation, but it's like gritty and real, and she really does communicate with these animals. I think that might be your goal. If that is, to my reading at least, it's not delivering on that in a satisfying way just yet. So I would think about your tone. I would think about adjusting some of these things. It is interesting. It is not, from my read, quite yet pulled off. But again, I think this is a cool choice. I think this is a cool risk you're taking. But it might need more setup earlier, right? Because pretty much everything before this was live action, straight up, realistic tone, and then immediately we jump and this is decent ways in, right? Like, I guess 5 pages is not too bad, but it's a little late for like fantastical elements. Like, you really want fantasy elements to like at least be hinting at their presence quite early. Okay, so Cinderella. Dusty lays his head on the man's hand. Cinderella goes to the window. Happy little River's coming, stepmother. So then does he die? Watching as the man falls. So he dies. Okay, that's kind of weird and depressing. Anyways, but again, like that's again like a very live actiony moment, and it's so despairing because we don't even get this sense that like Cinderella even believes he's savable, right? Like she looks at his wound and she's like, ah, it's kind of crappy. Like again, like it's bad. Does tell me some, but it doesn't say as much as is fatal. Like, this is a mortal wound. He will die. There's nothing I can do. I did not get that from it looks bad. All right, ding, ding, ding. Probably going to finish this page, and then I might call it a night because I'm old and I'm feeble. I'm tired. So, yeah. All right, ding, ding, ding. A knife wraps against a silver goblet held by Hubert Davenport. Slender, odious man. I want to be described as odious. Though again, show don't tell, especially in screenplays. As what we were saying in the other story we were reading, like that he was using a lot of these like hyper showing type things where we do where we're getting some more tell like a slender man with a goatee. ODS is a little, yeah, I get it. Like I know character descriptions you can bend those rules. But whatever. Anyways, he raises his glass with vicious ugly smile contrasted by his handsome clothes. I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone looks to him. Evelyn sits at the head of the table. So like again, like tell me about his voice, right? Or like how he like has like a simpering smile, or like shows too much of his gums when he smiles. I don't know, something that's distasteful and odious. I don't know. It always feels like a missed opportunity in screenplays. It definitely feels like a missed opportunity when I see that in screenplays. And it's so common that it just drives me bananas. And I know I harp on this a lot, so you can ignore it as desired. This is not egregious. You generally do a very good job of showing in that telling margin, but it is one of my pet peeves, so I'm going to talk about it because this is my stream. Gosh darn it! Everyone looks to him. Everyone sits at the head of the table while there's Les, Bridges, and then Charlotte, both visions and procreate. Eldest son with the rugged beard and battle scars, beastly gaze lingers on Charlotte, eyeing her hungrily. Scrawnier middle son from Bernadette. Okay, man, we've got a lot of characters. So we've almost had. I mean, it's not too bad, but we're getting a lot of characters by page 7. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the dead guy. If we count the animals, it's like 10. 6, 7, 8. 8 characters by page 7. That's a lot, right? And I know sometimes it is merited, and you're introducing them well, like grouping them is like really helpful. Like these are the Davenports. So we really only have like 3 true characters, which is like Cinderella's nasty family, Davenport nasty family, and Cinderella. But I would really just list these guys out because you're essentially saying the same thing 3 times. Do I need to know all these details? From Brigitte takes off his glasses, breathes, and cleans its lens. Youngest, most like his father, with a sinister smile that diminishes as he eyes the empty seat opposite him. Please raise your glasses. They follow suit. Rattles to the floor. Glasses empty. That must be remedied. Cinderella, wine. It's a clamoring of dishes. So like nothing's surprising me yet, except for like the somewhere over the rainbow thing. Feels like it's just like kind of in the wrong place. Honestly, it doesn't feel like it's earned its place in this story yet in a way that makes sense, or that fits with like the world as it was established from page 1. But yeah, but a lot of this is like telling me and showing me things I already know. Like there's nothing that's a turn, a surprising or interesting that is beyond what I would expect. Like, okay, people are jerks to Cinderella. They're making demands of Cinderella. You know, I've there's not a different angle on that is additive to like the context of the fairy tale that's been around for thousands of years, right? So I think that's something to think about. Yeah, like you have the somewhere over the rainbow thing. You kind of have some little things, but they're not getting communicated through the action. Those like distinctive things are coming in through your, telling your description, which is, it's your job to figure out what makes your story unique will be represented on the screen. You can't just tell me it's unique in description. Um, and I do like the magical animals, but Cinderella I think had magical animals in the past. Um, So like that blending element seems interesting, but it comes in kind of late in terms of like we've already established a lot of the context of the world. There's already been like a scene of this guy coming in bloody and wounded, and her like singing him to death, which is kind of like I don't know if it necessarily is giving me like, oh, Cinderella's a good person vibes. Like maybe if she was like healing him in her room. But again, like it goes to that tonal question. Like it seems like with this person dying, you want this grimdark tone, but then you know it doesn't seem to tonally align in a satisfying way. It seems to just kind of be lots of tonal pieces coming together, and they are clashing. I would say at this point, and they're not synthesizing in a clean way. Long ago, I'm sorry, I had the second cask froze over. I had to warm it. Make her nervous. He taps on his goblet, and she spins to fill it. His eyes on her breast causes her to spill some on him. I'm terribly sorry. Evelyn? Toby smirks as she puts on the jug and hastily cleans him. Let me get that for you. Cinderella. Cinderella. Listen, domineering separately. Sit down. Again, I know she's domineering. Don't need that detail. I'll go. I'll kind of go faster to page 10. I kind of want to get to like a turning point. That's generally like the inciting incident should be happening around page 10 or 11, um, or at least some sort of indication of a change of fortune. Like, so if that hasn't happened, so since the glooming to our hostess, woman of Donald's straight rival, only Marichana, since the glooming to the color from our world may have chanced upon such a vision. So, okay, so the glooming is interesting. Again, this is a little expository and a very long line. Allowable because it's a speech, but I would think about ways to tune this. This feels like there's no conflict in the scene. Yeah, there's some scene distractions and some scene agitators. That's what they're called. Yeah. So there are scene agitators, but there's no uncertainty, there's no conflict. I don't, besides the fact that like I don't care if Hubert's children marry Evelyn's daughters. So there's no stakes in that for me. So like again, like it would be very interesting if this guy that died, for example, had a secret about Hubert, and he tells Cinderella, maybe on his deathbed, he's gonna kill your sisters, and she's like, what? He's like, he wants to kill your sisters. He's gonna take over your house, something like that, right? Like where I'm like, this conversation becomes extremely interesting because then I am asking the question as the reader, oh my gosh, is this going to be like the McLeods and the other Scottish family that they all stab the person next to him at the dinner table, and McLeods and the I forget, but anyways, but those are the pieces that make like those quiet dinner scenes. Like you got to put a bomb under the table, and then a quiet dinner conversation is really enthralling. But there's no bomb under the table. There's no risk. There's no stakes. So this just becomes a dinner scene where they are giving me some exposition, just a little bit like, okay, now since the glooming to color from our world, a little on the nose, fine, but that would be delivered way better if I knew there was a planned murder about to happen or something, right? So the one on the table rattles. Cinderella giggles. Here, here. Why does Cinderella giggle? What's so funny about becoming one to Evelyn? She sit down and they all return to their seats. Hubert, that was beautiful. Thank you. You must realize that we've still not given our answer. What do you think, Charlotte? Is your heart not bursting with desire? Do your loins not yearn to give the entrance? I mean, that's a pretty funny line, but I know that you're being you're driving humor in the scene. Again, like Evelyn doesn't seem so unaware, because she's like a smart lady. So like, while that's a funny line for like a bumbling mother-in-law to say, I don't believe that Evelyn is a bumbling person at all. She is gunning to get her kids married. She does not give a crap about anything but what she wants. So like this kind of stilted language, I feel like she would be smart enough to realize that it's not going to be effective unless it actually is. I don't know. Seems a bit wild. But I'm sure I could tame him, given Amnon and you, Bridget. Will you defend yourself against Simon? Will you welcome him and open your arms and surrender your sacred virginity? I feel inspired, mother. Enough of these games, you nobles and trustable celebrities. I will not shed any more by cutting myself on your sharp wit. It's not sharp wit, but you know why we're here, and we must make the arrangements we wish to discuss. You're no fun, Herbert. Okay, they all Toby makes eyes at Cinderella. She blushes. Once you and your daughters agree to the marriage, I will sign this securing substantial debt. You will sign this officiating the rise of good Davenport name from merchant to noble. Then once it needs to be done is done, I'll have the time. Time for fun noble games. Again, fun feels a little bit needs to be done. She looks at Cinderella, smiles. Cinderella, go to the kitchen and check on the wine. So again, like there's something, but it's nothing surprising, right? Like we know, okay, Cinderella's getting the old, the old sock it to ya by her. Like, so again, this seems like a really true retelling of Cinderella, but it doesn't have that kind of like new edgy element that I think you're wanting to deliver from my point of view. But it has a Chateau Henriette. You've married her to Troy. It would be birthright of your third son. Huh. You're allowed to be slain by the likes of her. We all know she was blessed by the fairy. She is kind and she is gentle and she will bear kind and virtuous children. Yeah, so this is also very, very telling. Cinderella must die tonight. So again, this should be established way earlier. Uh, I like that there is some urgency here, but like that wounded guy, what was the point of him? Just except for like a really kind of like not a save the cat, but like a watch be nice to the cat while it dies. Um, and I know I'm being more like brusque and direct with my feedback because I know this is not your first rodeo. You've gotten a lot of feedback before. I know that you're thinking about these stories in a very critical way. So yeah, and if you're like Jeff, like chill out, man. Totally okay too. You can tell me like, yo, that was intense. But no, like I am getting like I think that wounded individual probably should be hinting at Cinderella that she's in some danger, right? Like, they're the two servants. There should be some solidarity there, and and she's like sitting on his deathbed, and he should be like, "You have to get out." She's like, "What? You have to get out," and he dies, and then boom, we have this dinner thing, and then we find out that yeah, they're planning on killing her. It has to be tonight. Like maybe the reveal here is not the fact that they were planning to kill her, because I feel like it feels like that's a reveal. Like, oh, Cinderella must die. And then, but they should all already know that. The thing that should be new information is that she must die tonight. The urgency, like we all knew that we were going to axe this chick at some point. He doesn't have to explain it to me here. Oops, I don't know where that went. He doesn't have to explain it to me that they were planning on killing her. But he does have to say, hey, the schedule has been moved up. We're doing it right now. That would be my last note. Anyways, it's getting late for me. I hope this was helpful. I know I was a little bit, more fast and loose with these edits, but just having fun, but this is also like has quite a bit of polish already on it in a lot of ways. So I get to be a little bit more exacting, which is nice. So there's like most of the sentences are pretty clean. A lot of these a lot of the scene structure is mostly there. And so I get to kind of talk about different things and hopefully in a little bit more depth. Hope that was beneficial to the folks that are watching. As always, it's just wonderful to have you all join me and hang out with me and do these fun, nerdy things. And yeah, I'll see you all soon. I'll probably be streaming more this week. It's been a busy time of life, but I'm excited to hopefully get back out there and get some more words on the page. See you all soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.